Welcome to the 1-0 podcast. I'm your host, Dom Skeen, along with my co-host, the voice of the Teal Sleeve Boys, Don Dishes, Dante Reynolds, Big Man, Tiny Mike, goes by a lot of names, wears a lot of different hats these days. But got a lot to talk about with him. How you doing, Don?
Doing well, my boy. It's good to be here as always. We just love to tap in about the squad and got a lot to talk about. So excited, man. How you been?
Good. Been kind of, enjoying the off day, kind of just making sure, refresh and reset expectations during the off day. But, got some things to talk to you about. How have you been since, the big trip to New York, getting to see the team play the first time?
Yeah, man, it's good energy. It felt great. Every game was good to be at. It's a great park to go see. A lot of energy. So it was great. It was rare, to see the team as far as like this year goes. As you said, it was my first time getting to see my squad live, and it's been mad games. So, but it was great. It was still great. It still felt like a magical time. It always is for me anyway. And seeing other fans, bunched up, trying to kick it, vibing, shouting out guys I know. It was just, straight good vibes. So good time. And we took that last game. So I was super happy that we got one. Any is good, but that last one felt real nice.
Absolutely. And in the spirit of, if you guys don't know, if you're joining us now, welcome. Don, made Julio a song back in, was it 2022?
Yeah, I'd say 2022.
His rookie year. It was right before, I think it was right before the All-Star game. Right? Is that
timing sounds right. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
when
it was his first couple months, when he was first really, getting over a 200 batting average as a pro even. Don made Julio a song, home run Julio. That's how I found Don. That's how a lot of people found Don. That's how Julio obviously found Don. And since then, they've connected in New York. They connected and they made a trade. Don traded Julio kind of a goodie bag of different things. And then Julio traded Don something real special, which you got to go back and watch the stream live from New York City if you want to see that. It was pretty awesome. But I want to ask you guys in the chat, and I'll post it here. Favorite Julio, just to get the good vibes going today, because it is a Monday. The weather's pretty nice in Seattle. It is more sunny here maybe than in Oakland. It sounds like you said it's not too sunny over there.
Yeah, we got a lot of wind today, so it's brought clouds, but the sun is still, sun still thrives out here. But maybe you guys are rivaling the amount of sun that's produced over here right now.
Absolutely. And what I want to ask you guys, with the good vibes and everything, the good weather, is favorite Julio Rodriguez memory, because obviously Don just had one that is just, on the level that is that your favorite Julio memory? What are some of your other favorite ones?
Man, for me, there's so many. Like for me, anytime that, I'm connected with my boys, it's fire. But, another time when I was out in New York, I would say probably the second year that me and my boy Brian ran it back. I was just going around to a bunch of seats because it was either, it had to be the second time because I was like, I got to see this park. I just want to go to a bunch of seats. So, we started above the pin, behind Julio where we love to be. And I was like down, a little lower, what I'm saying? And then over in this other spot. And I was making sure I was yelling at Julio so he would see me. And then at one point I'd been at so many, he looked at me, he's like, bro, like, where are you going to be at? Like, it's like, you're everywhere. And I was just like, yep, I'm everywhere. So, I just love to create moments and create energy. This time was a great moment. Shout out to Justin Novak. He brought the football out, because him and Brian Wu love to throw the rock around, and he threw it into the crowd. Everybody got to, get some touches. So just a vibe, just a vibe that was vibrating. And that was that last game. So it was just really fun to connect. But my Julio moments run deep, bro. And I like to create with everybody, It's about just creating with the club. It's just something that can't be replaced in that moment in time.
Oh yeah, I did see you throwing from the stands. You had your meta glasses, so you were able to film that. And I saw you throw, and I saw you put a little bit of spin on that.
It was
Hard Knocks on HBO. They covered spin rate of Sam Darnold. We've been talking about spin rate and spin efficiency like crazy on this channel.
That's true.
So I got to finally see. I haven't even seen you do. When we finally link up in person, which we still haven't. we're gonna get
Yeah,
to
man.
do a catch and converse,
Definitely.
And
definitely.
that's gonna be, I'm of course gonna be geeking out about spin rate as I do it, probably, saying some, crazy obscure thing,
Yeah.
about the baseball, how it's moving, and how, I'm throwing a little bit more of a sinker. I'm cutting the baseball today.
Hey, you know your stuff, man. I threw too much on that. That football almost nosed over to the ground. Justin saved me. It was a bad
I mean, I
toss.
saw your spin rate on that. You got a little bit of a spin on that, right? You got close to a little bit of spiral. It was no Sam Darnold, right?
No,
you're not
even
Sammy D for the Seattle Seahawks, but you were, which is, it's also crazy. I just realized that I've only known you, like, technically, we've only been doing the podcast since the Seahawks, like, were in the Super Bowl basically that week.
Right. Yeah.
Was our first, or something like that, was our first podcast early February.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
It's crazy that, I mean, it's just been that short time, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Hey, time flies, man. A lot of things pack into that little bit of time, and it's crazy because the seasons kind of overlap, so we get like the best of both worlds, coming into this and then out of it. So yeah, it's just the time blends. It's wild.
Absolutely. Speaking of the best of both worlds, we got Kevin Hawthorne checking in from good evening from Lakeland, Florida. How you doing, my friend? Hey. Kevin? He's always popping in the streams. One of our, we've had, kind of a really good community coming together. So glad to have Don here on a Monday. Vibes are good. We got Florida in the house, Lakeland, Florida in the house. We've got, I know there's been some good football prospects from Lakeland, Florida. They got a high school over there that produces some Division I talent for sure.
Oh, word. But, shout out Florida. Shout out Florida.
Yeah. Anyway, with Julio Rodriguez, though.
Yeah.
The Players Tribune puts out an article on Julio Rodriguez right as, Don obviously has, this, peak interaction with Julio. So Seattle forever. So, yeah, the Players Tribune ends up having this. And I'm not sure if this was okay. They put this out right now, but they posted the story. Oh, okay, yeah. They posted a story that's actually a story he did from 2023. Do you remember this story coming out, Don? Here, I'm going to switch back over. Sorry, I was kind of disoriented with this.
No, you're good, bro. Yeah, it's all good. I'm not sure, to be honest.
I barely do. Yeah.
So, I really don't. Yeah, I'm not gonna say I do.
It's been a long time. It was March, so it was a weird time as well. And anyway, we've got this Julio story. Let's go ahead and take a peek. At this story. If I've even got it in Spanish, which we got to remember
which they should, yeah.
Yeah, a big portion of Julio's fans are Spanish speakers, right? A lot of when you think about Julio's biggest, most loyal fans, who are probably rooting for him every at bat like crazy, right? A big portion of those, right, bigger than you think, are
bigger than
team, who are, So that's as opposed to, there's a lot of the Seattle fans, right, love him as far as being a Mariners player, right?
Right.
So, and then it is important with our parasocial relationships with athletes. I hear this word. Have you heard this word being brought up recently, like parasocial?
No, not me. No, I haven't.
It's not used to describe the relationship that people have with online personalities or TV personalities. Where gotcha. It's not like the person, but it's of the person, right? And they don't know you. So
I got you.
It is important to remember, that there's fans and there's different types of fans, right? There is the fans who identify with somebody because it's like the hometown, right? And they're going to be a fan no matter what MLB team they go to. Then there is the fans of the of the MLB team of the Seattle Mariners. And then if Julio Rodriguez got traded, obviously not saying we don't want to talk about horror stories. I apologize for saying this, but you know what I mean, right?
I got you.
It's going to happen. We never do that, but it's like Julio. A lot of people would not be a fan of him if he left the Mariners, for some reason. They are a fan of him because he is a Mariner. And, there's also room for criticism of players, within the realm of how much they're helping a team, how much they're not, and how much they are, prioritizing themselves as individual. Don, have you noticed any of that stuff recently in terms of the interactions you're seeing surrounding Mariners, Julio, MLB?
As far as prioritizing themselves and what?
Well, with fans, there's like the types of fans, right, who are
Mm-hmm.
fans of a player, or
Yeah,
fans, for a reason like, oh, I just genuinely, this player's from my hometown, or like I
got
have
you.
a real connection to this player that couldn't be stopped, right, couldn't really be
Mm.
changed. And then there's fans of the Mariners who, wouldn't really be a fan of the player.
Yeah, I feel you, brother. Yeah, thank you for clarifying for me. I got blanked for a second, but yeah, no, that's a thing that thrives, and I got to experience that in New York, in a sense of there was a lot of different Dominican ball clubs, youth and higher, that were at Yankee Stadium, and a lot of them were from the DR. So they were there, traveled in, and so many of those young kids were there to see Julio, just Julio. Like they were running up every second just to, say "Vamos Julio" and just yell and try to get his attention. And that fandom, that's the type of vein that's, from the homeland, wherever he is, wherever I would see him, it's love. And that was a beautiful thing, to see and be a part of. For seconds, just to see those clubs come through. So yeah, the different fandom is awesome, man. I mean, and then you get those fans, the Seattle fans rocking the jersey, and yeah, if he left, they might burn the jersey, because they would feel the loyalty had left. What I'm saying, the love is lost. Um, but a guy like me, it's through and through. Like I try to get that personal type of connection through, and once if I connect with you with that, the jersey can change all that it wants, but the name on the back remains the same, and I'll always be able to to lock in with those that I lock in with. So yeah, the different fans are a real thing, though. It's a real thing. People's heart bleed, for these connections.
Absolutely. We got Jack checking in. How you doing, my friend? Friend of the channel,
Hey,
obviously. And he says Julio is the modern day Odysseus. Odysseus' story is about his long journey home, improving himself. Julio's career is still a journey toward becoming one of baseball's elite players. Thank you for the comment, Jack. That's thoughtful. And
that is
Don, have
thoughtful.
you
That's strong.
heard about the Odyssey? Yeah, first of all, have you seen the Odyssey? I want to ask.
No, I haven't seen it, but we had to read it in school. So you know what I
Absolutely.
mean.
What Jack
Public
and I said
school,
too.
public school did something. You know what I'm saying. So I had to read the book. So I got the knowledge on the journey and the story. So I get the parable. I definitely understand it. The boy has definitely proven himself through the journey. The journey's long. He's super early in his steps and making his path. And heavy is the crown. Because he's over here in Seattle, locking it down, and he's a lifer in our eyes. That's a heavy burden. He's a young cat. He's still looking to people for leadership. Learning all the time, and he's still got to be a leader in his own right. So, I mean, yeah, the proving and all that is definitely matching. But he's already such a king in the steps he's made. So it's almost like he's got huge steps that he's stepping over already, and it's the beginning of the steps. So it's really wild. His weight is wild to see, and he carries it so well. It's going to be great to see him flourish.
And we got Mariners Steve checking in. Thanks for the show. Thank you as well. He has been a day one supporter of the channel.
Hey,
So when I was making the Andrew
That's love.
Kinzer videos, I remember he checked in with me and messaged me. So, yeah, really appreciate you. I've been meaning to tap in with you for a while. So yeah, appreciate you. Definitely expect a message from me soon.
Hey,
Yeah, but back to the Odysseus and Julio comparison.
for sure.
After I've seen the Odyssey twice now, the things that I want to draw a parallel that I think can really help us with this story in particular, and with actually going 1-0, tomorrow. Like, how does this actually pertain, right? You could ask. I think it does because, like, I sometimes get outside of the realm of what I'm doing, and you see this in movies and TV all the time. Real life doesn't always work this way, where character will get an epiphany, right? And they'll leave whatever they're doing, right? Leave work or school, and they'll turn around, thank you, and then they'll run back to their home, their desk, right? And they'll type in the missing thing. You know what I'm talking about, Don?
Yeah, I got you, brother.
Like that epiphany moment, the light bulb moment. It's just the light bulb moment, basically. It, it's not to say that, like Julio is somebody who watches One Piece and gets that from One Piece. And Don, you've discussed this back when we had One Piece night at the stadium early in the season.
Right.
So we know Julio is somebody who narrative driven. He's a big Naruto fan. Like players do think that way, right? You don't get through 162 games by being a robot. And Julio is looking to have some fun, right? He is looking, he's a guy who you can tell, right? He's somebody, I'd say, like myself, who takes, quite a bit of stimulation. I can watch 4 baseball games at once on the quad box, right? I can watch, Red Zone, and I love stuff like that. I love watching a whole bunch of different things at once, and putting my own audio tracks on the game of the radio, and like I enjoy doing things like that, and I see Julio as somebody like out in center field, right? If you go to a game, you see this. Never see this on the TV once. If you go to a game, right, in center field, just like between the plays, right, between the pitches, he's vibing when the DJ is going hard in the first 3 innings in center field, and it's like you can, like if you're over by that area, you can really just only hear the DJ,
right.
during the game. Julio is vibing along to the music, and he's feeding off that. The same way, you can get something out of a narrative. The Mariners can get something out of a narrative right now because there's so much, right? And we've talked about this a lot recently and had kind of our struggles with how do we, tell you guys like, oh, obviously we understand as a fan, fan how you want to fan, but believe in this team, darn it, because like what else you're going to do, right?
Got to.
And it's like, you might as well tell yourself whatever story, right? You could go watch the worst movie ever with a hero, right? You could go watch, and if you could convince yourself that that's the Mariners win the World Series, right? That could inspire the team. The Mariners watched, what's a terrible, the Mariners watched, a terrible movie, Thor 2, right? And that story of, superhero of just being a hero, right, was what inspired the Mariners to win the World Series in 2026. Sounds stupid, right? But it's like,
never know.
Obviously they could watch a better movie, right? Anything. And just buying into something, right? How much are you willing to buy into something does matter. And I think this is something we've been getting at for a long time. I'm glad that we're here on a Monday and this is what we're talking about 17 minutes in. That is buy-in and belief.
Definitely, bro. It makes sense. I mean, I'll have to do a guilty, a guilty explanation of my want for us to win, my buy-in, like in New York, I have to admit it. I watched Moneyball every morning. And I would just, when I was at the game, if somebody got on base, I would just be like, why we like him? Because he gets on base. And some New York fans hated me so much for that. But I was just believing. And you can just make a line, just make a line and just run with something that feels good. Nothing's wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with creating an energy and taking from things. And I want to, line that up with the Julio situation. I just think he's a guy who knows the story's long. Yeah, he knows the story's long, bro. Yeah.
Here, sorry to interject here, but
yeah, you're good.
Jack and I went to a game literally, I think, with Taylor Ward, saw him for the first time, and all we're talking about is he gets on base. He gets on base.
Hey, come on. I like that.
Daily too. So,
there we go.
Right there. No, that's exactly what we were doing last week. That's why I had to interject. But
yeah, no. That's awesome, bro. I love to hear that too. Thanks for putting that in there and I love to hear that other people are doing the same thing. It's a connection, man, and there's something from everything. The One Piece connection, the story, just the journey, because we're all on a journey, man, and all these journeys, no one's journey is really built off of just one A to B motion. Right? We're all waking up. We have 1,000 things on our mind, 1,000 things to do, so many moving pieces, so much love here and movement here and frustration here, wins and losses. So you have to love the journey. You have to find a way to embrace it. And I think those are the things that we see the trend with Julio, that he's embracing a journey built on a whole lot of stepping stones. And it's just wild that such a young cat can carry it so well. And just still be evolving, you know what I'm saying? And selfless, bro. Homie's selfless. And it's just good to see. So I really want to see it pay off for the kid.
It's crazy because I think the advice that we're kind of giving the Mariners right now, I'm going to make a joke out of it, make light of it.
Yeah, of course.
Too. And I'm proud that we're the Mariners podcast that's saying this, is that maybe the answer is to go home and watch some TV, right? Watch a movie, because you get the narrative, you have this narrative. And like you just said, right? Then how do you get through a process, the grueling, losing streaks? How do you get through a 6-game losing streak and turn it around? I don't know. Maybe you watch a movie about like every movie ever where it's an underdog story, every sports movie ever where the team is losing a whole bunch. And then, they win a whole bunch, right? And that's like literally every movie ever, every story ever. There could be a benefit to, doing that, because if your alternative is that you need, like I am all, for accountability and for good communication,
Right.
and I don't, it's not lost on me, that people are, promoting that. And, I actually, really appreciate that people are promoting that, but we are also promoting that, if the alternative to, to going home and trying to like forget about this stuff, right, and go 1-0 the next day, or trying to, just watch a movie and then you have the epiphany later that, hey, maybe I'm Odysseus, right? That's actually might be good for you, even though it's not, it's not stupid, right, to identify with characters in a story, right? That's why. I mean, look at us with the Mariners, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, those characters came from somewhere. That's why you end up identifying the pen that writes the stories. The stories have those relations because those moments and things are real. In the bottom of the grains of salt of these stories is real instances, triumph. What I'm saying, tribulations, all of that. That's why we connect. And yeah, I think you're right. You hit it on the nose, and I hope they can hear us, because they do need to go watch some just group up and watch some things that have these hero arcs and these villain arcs, and find yourself in there. It's like watching Hard Knocks and hearing Mr. McDonald, head coach over there. He said without that culture, without that connection of culture, like you break. And he said with them, they've got that. And you see what they're doing. If people are watching the show, they're putting everything, they're connecting it. They got their own Bible. They got these things that everybody is locked in, bro. The line is a through line, and everybody's on it. So it's a good thing to do.
Absolutely. I'm really glad we're on we're kind of down this path today. This is what kind of helps you with the process, with going, through how do we get through the day to day, right? The grueling, losing streaks. This could be the way you do it, right? And I mean, if you want to say, the alternative is we really need something that's more like, oh, this just isn't good enough, and we really need to like chew, and really harp on certain things, then show me how you're going to harp on things and how that's going to get better, right? At least make me believe it, right? Because at least we just spent, some time, and we're willing to, talk about, this. Like, I have been a coach, you have been, in baseball, enough to, and created relationships in baseball, where not exactly coaching, but other, things that are very, very peripheral to coaching, that it's like, right, you can't have these conversations and say, can you just admit to me that this is not good enough? Or like, how do you even, ask an athlete, right?
Yeah, it would never work. That would never go.
Yeah, the question that I usually have, right, is could I say this to a player's face, right? Like,
definitely.
Like how, because, and more, not in terms of like a reporter, even like, like, could I ask the player this hard-hitting question that's I'm really gonna make their life hard after the game they just played. They come to my question, and man, that's the hard part, right? No, that's not the goal, right? At all. For me, it's more like, the goal is like, as a coach, right? Is this something that I could say to a player if I actually, wanted to get a response that made sense, right? Like, I don't want them to hate answering my, laborious question, or to have to defend, have to like play defense against my question, right? Or something like that. I'd never want to ask the questions that's like, oh yeah, well, this team just, and if a team can't answer questions, right? I mean, it's not the reporter's fault, right? I will, publicly say the Angels, the Los Angeles Angels, they have a really poor policy of, with their media, with Sam Bloom of The Athletic, who's investigating the Tyler Skaggs, death, and the lawsuit surrounding that, who's, even all the way to minute things like Yusei Kikuchi, former Mariner, last off season, this past off season with the AC in the weight room, where they didn't have air conditioning, and it's Southern California, and it was the GM comes out and answers questions to reporters and has to deflect, like, why don't you just fix the AC? And then they put out like a LinkedIn posting for a guy who does AC units, and then obviously the reporters pick that up and make it. And it's like, well, this is just hilarious, right? All this together make paint a picture that's pretty hilarious. Good job on the Angels media there, and good job on the, because again, that's like stuff that I wouldn't tell to a player's face. Yeah, in Southern California, you're in the weight room. Sorry, bro, no AC.
No chance. Like that's wicked.
So you can be critical of organizations, and the Mariners have things that deserve criticism for sure. But again, would your criticism be useful? Or right. and if not, I mean, maybe like it would be more interesting to ask questions. So
for sure.
Yeah. What do you think of all that?
Man, I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that you can have your opinion, but you could be beating a dead horse. You can be asking the questions and have the media pass, but you don't need to ask anything at all, right? There's some things you don't have to say. Sometimes when you see your team take a L or a W, that you know what you should ask, and you know what you shouldn't ask, and I think it takes time. I think it takes repetition and understanding the game, understanding the ball players that you're speaking to. That really does change. You definitely, person to person, day to day is going to change. So, I think you just got to be conscious of where you are and conscious of who you're tapping in with, from the media and different things like that. And being even a fan too, if you're yelling from the side and you say something sideways, you should be very prepared to live real life consequences and understand that these people are real, and these things you're saying make them feel certain ways. And I know some people don't deal with people being made to feel a way, but that is a real energy. So if you're in a space and you want to bring a certain energy to a space, there is an output and a consequence.
Absolutely. As somebody who's like, you and I have both had media passes at certain events. For me, I mean, high school events, I've had other types of like recruiting passes for college events. And in those, I think I've asked good questions and poor questions, at certain
for
times.
Sure.
And, and it's like a big learning experience, and you want to get better. And it's like some of the better questions I've asked, like, I would say, like, I would have questions prepared, that have nothing to do, like, no matter what the result of the game is, I could ask Julio about this story about him from 2023, about this specific thing, or maybe I could just tie it to one catch that he made or one good at bat that he had. Right. And then it doesn't have to be all about whether the team won or lost. And I get what, I have a media pass for one game and I can't ask any questions because the team lost. Instead you want to this is your one chance to get a media pass. You might as well, you're interviewing Julio Rodriguez, one of the best baseball players on the planet. There's things that you've been wanting to ask him for 5 years, right?
There should be. Yeah, there should be. Yeah.
Ask all those questions now, right? And then if something arises during the game, and also at the end of the day, right, there are reporters for the Seattle Times, Ryan Divish, Adam Jude, Daniel Kramer, PrimeLP.com, right? Those are reporters who are reporting the news, who, when things come out about the Mariners, Shannon Dreyer, on 710, those are people who are, giving you the information, straight from the team, or something like that, right? Whereas everybody else, if you're not one of those people, why try to out report those people who have the inside scoop, right? Like, you don't try to be the first person to ask, what was the touchdown? What was the homer like, right? If Julio hits a homer, be prepared. If it's my first media pass, to not ask about the homer, but to ask about, or to, be prepared for everybody else to take all your questions, right? And to have something in the back pocket from before any of this happened that, maybe you can rework into something that has to do with the game somehow. Any thoughts on all that stuff?
Nah, man, I hear you. You're giving some scoop on doing the media thing. It makes sense, bro. Yeah, have something in the tuck, because everybody's gonna ask that same vibe question, that same bright, shiny toy question, right? So you definitely hope that when your time comes, you can pull out something that's like, oh, that made them think, or that was captivating, and you get a great answer.
Yeah. Have you had those experiences asking players questions and things like that?
Not too much just yet. I did get to interview the head coach of Jackson State when they were here for the HBCU Classic. And I kind of got nervous, what I'm saying, because I was on the spot. Bookie was like, "Yeah, you can do it. Go ahead." And I got ready to do it, but shaking through that, I just was able to ask him about his season, and I'd looked him up, so I had some data on him, so I was able to reference that he had the most wins in their collegiate reign right now, and that he was going to even break that this season with the the games they had ahead, and just to bring that up on the spot, he respected that, and it was a good moment. That's posted on my Big Man Tiny Mac page as well, so people can go check that out if they like. But yeah, you just got to be ready. Just have something. Just have some data. That was an interview that happened, right before things kind of popped off. So I didn't even get to ask about gameplay that day. The guys were still warming up when I got to talk to head coach. So yeah, just be ready with something, man. If you're out there, just have a few in the tuck.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I remember you got the media pass for that. That's media pass at T-Mobile Park. That's no joke. So
yeah, man, that was a good time.
Yeah. And then so we talked about Julio a bit. Not going to read this whole story. Maybe we'll each kind of go back and read it a different time. Yeah, it's like 2023. He's talking about the clinch a little bit, talking about the story from kind of Dominican. It's a long form piece, so I think it would be better, if we watch it a little bit later.
For sure, yeah. Well, at least we're letting them know, tap in and let the people know to go get get it. Yeah, you're good, brother.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
The link in the description for this.
Yeah, for sure.
Then, yeah, everybody go, read this on your off day if you want some extra content. We might, bring this up a little bit,
Yeah, in between scrolling, go ahead and scroll through some good stuff right there. Soak it up.
I want to take a moment with everybody go subscribe to Don's YouTube. And can you remind me, Don, what your YouTube, you tell the people kind of where to find you.
Yeah, so my YouTube is just at Don Dishes. So if you're trying to find me, it's just at Don Dishes. That'll be my search. It'll always have my logo. So if you guys know my logo at all, just a little Mariner face, rocking the Mariner fitted. That's what you're going to be looking for my page. If it's not that, don't rock with it. So yeah, at Don Dishes.
You don't have five different YouTubes?
Man, there's so many. There's somebody who made a fake one of me. It's like a weird couple photos of my personal face. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a few Don Dishes now.
There is another Don Skeen on YouTube too. Somebody made a Don Skeen eventually. Yeah, I was like, oh, interesting. So.
It's no bueno. Yeah, I hate it. I wish I could get them erased. I just want them down. There's only one, bro. Just rock.
Hey, honestly, I want more people putting my stuff out there. If somebody, I'm not making money off my videos yet, and even when I do, right, all the biggest people, right, are getting, their word out pretty well. So.
Word, yeah. I hope they're pushing mine. It's just a picture of me and then no data. so it's really not helping the boy.
Hey, everybody go subscribe to Don.
No doubt.
All right, Northwest Sports on the East Coast. How you doing, my friend? He said his favorite Julio moment, the home run derby in LA. I loved watching that. Do you remember watching that, Don, his rookie year?
Home run derby in LA. I don't.
In Dodger Stadium.
I don't. That's tough. Yeah, I
wasn't wearing the hat. Franmi Pena was pitching to him. This was shortly after Home Run Julio came out, I believe.
Word. I'm sure I watched it. I just don't remember watching it, which is crazy.
He was rocking just no hat, just Ricky Young.
Just putting in that work. Yeah.
Putting in that work. Dodger Stadium. Only lost to Soto, but he was the most exciting hitter in the Derby that year.
Yeah.
He said the reason that he missed most of that season was due to military deployment, and he got to see what all the rave was about on national TV. So thank you for your service to sports.
Oh, no doubt. Yes, respect. Big respect.
Friend. God bless you. And yeah, I'm glad that it's interesting to to think about what your perspective must have been like, watching that from your perspective. It's because we had such a great time, and appreciate you. Yeah, um, that was good. That was some just good
Yeah.
base. So like no matter what, even the people who don't know as much, I bet you were watching with some people that didn't know as much, right? And it's
I'm
like
sure.
fooling them
sure.
on Julio back
Yeah.
then, or
I'm
you
sure, bro.
hearing about it,
Yeah.
or not seeing too much or not hearing too much, and that kind of puts you on. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. That had to be the put on. Had to be.
Oh yeah, that was it for sure. Oh yeah, so we're gonna go read this Julio story. Talk about it a little bit later probably, but also want to check in on this Brock Rodden story because apparently,
talking about with the bull and his dad.
So there's this guy, New Mariner Brock Rodden. He's not even that big, like 5'7", 170. He's basically the smallest dude on the field, but like a decade ago, he's on farm in Oklahoma. He's 17. He's with his grandpa giving shots to a bull because that's what you do on a ranch. Rodden has his back turned, and he hears this thud. It's not a normal thud. It's the sound of his own grandpa getting bull rushed by a literal bull. So he bucks out of his chute, and the first thing he sees is a PVC pipe. He hits the bull within the pipe, shatters. Now the bull is mad at him instead. His grandpa already got jumped 5 times, punctured lung, broke arm, broke ribs. The bull charges and Robert literally sidesteps it like a matador, then grabs its ear on the backside, turns its head, and uses gravity to throw it down. By the grace of God, the bull falls, and Rodden puts his knee on its neck and just waits for Grandpa to crawl out. Anyway, the same guy playing infield for the M's right now, and nobody knows. The grit is unexplainable. That's all.
Wild.
It's hard to say anything.
It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Like nothing that we can add other than this is like one of the grittiest stories that's like it sounds made up.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild one, bro. Besides, unfortunately, his dad getting kind of injured, everything else is just so wild,
His grandpa, yeah.
Yeah, his grandpa. That's nuts. It's a nuts story. But hey, it gets like that out on the ranch. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say, it's not authentic. I'm sure homie can authenticate it if he wants to. But yeah, that's some grit, bro. That's some grit. Either way.
Somebody says here that this pasta is going to go hard after he hits a walk-off home run in Game 7 of the ALCS, which I did on a Jay Trident's channel last time I was on there. I think it was Thursday. Basically, I said, just so you can clip it. I was joking, like half joking. I was like, Brock Rodden, ALCS MVP, and so, I mean, this person is saying, as 2 hours ago, as a thing, right? So,
yeah. Hey man, hey, whatever floats your boat and finds your lost remote. If this guy is giving people hope and he's tackling bulls and saving lives, I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever energy we can throw into our bushel. Backstories are always great. You know what I'm saying? And he's a new cat getting pulled up. So why not? You know what I'm saying? Talk about a crazy bull story. You see that coming in hot. It's a wild story. You never know. But I mean, I don't know. I'll take anything. The lure is always fun, man. It's always a fun vibe.
Yeah, but Brock Rodden overall, I want to ask you about his play. Did you get to see much of Brock actually playing this weekend?
A little bit. I did get to. I mean, I've obviously seen what he did, but I didn't get to see like in game, full game. None of that.
Yeah. So, basically, I mean, he looks pretty good so far, right? We have some other thoughts, on this call up, but the bull story is pretty awesome. He's showing some grit. He helped the Mariners this weekend, absolutely, in the series versus the Astros. A good first big league series, and he is the definition of a 1-0 player because he's helping you right now. He is clearly like playing some of the better ball that he's ever played. Like he's a hot hitter. Doesn't mean that he's the best one of the 9 top hitters that the Mariners have in their organization? No, but he might be one of the best right this second. He might even be one of the top 5 right this second. I don't think we even know yet enough to say, like he could do anything over the next week or two. He has this switch hitting, approach where, he can take pitches. He's short. He does have a big weak spot below the zone. Breaking balls, sliders down, change ups down, curveballs down, all look like nightmares for him. Splitters down going to be a problem as well. But you see him putting some really like decisive swings on the up pitches, the fastballs. So it looks like, he can shrink the strike zone a little bit, being shorter. And he can be one of those guys who's, a pest, taking longer at bats at the bottom of the lineup, be the prototypical player that you might, that you can use right now. And yeah, here's just, watching his stance. Do you see his stance right there?
Yeah, I see him.
And kind of how he's one of those, short switch hitting middle infield type players, stocky. And now we really do like Brock Rodden, what he's doing for the Mariners. But we also want to talk about another guy. This is Don's guy, so I'll let you start off here. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. No, and it's no shade to Brock at all, because that's obviously a good ball player, and everyone's gonna get their time in the sun. But for me, to see that we didn't make the call to Ryan Bliss to activate, based on what he's been blistering at the AAA level, still in my mind, how he's just been holding it down, staying active. He's now set the record for stolen bases over there, and he's still hitting strong, still keeping his numbers up. It just didn't make any sense to me. Of course, they know more than we know. Of course, I'm just speaking from my angle of things. I would have liked, to see him get an activation. I still would like to see him get an activation to be, another one of these guys, these workhorse guys who know they can pull up. And like you said, like Brock, help us right now. I feel like his bat, his speed, his patience could really help us right now.
Yeah, and we had some thoughts on this. You and I, definitely went back and forth on this. And we're not necessarily in disagreement. We're more asking the questions, like we were talking about earlier, about exactly, what the timeline, the organizational timeline looks like for Ryan Bliss specifically. Because we looked at Brock Rodden a second ago. He's clearly like a right now guy who just he plays the position in the time of need, and it kind of works out. And it's not like Rodden is playing second base either.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Is he going to be a second baseman long term? Let's see.
Yeah.
Because let's see. So he's played. There's an easier way to do this. This is where I'm opening up tabs and stuff. But this is important, and we're going to get back to Bliss in a second, because the context is really what matters to go 1-0 in each situation. So shortstop. So he's played all 3 games at shortstop. So the thing is, Ryan Bliss at shortstop, and this is where it gets kind of funky, is that Rodden's like a little bit bigger, right? But Bliss also is kind of the same size almost, and kind of, is like a second baseman. Bliss is like a true second baseman though. He's probably not like a big arm strength guy that's going to go, for third base. He's rangy. So, but you do ask the question, could Bliss play shortstop? Do you, and I'll go ahead and search up Bliss so that we have the context of how much he does. But what do you
He's
think
definitely played. He's played short in Tacoma for sure. I don't know if he's played, for the Mariners shortstop, but he's played in Tacoma for sure.
Yeah, so it looks like he's never played shortstop for the Mariners. So organizationally, it sounds like they view him more as a second baseman, which makes sense since Cole Young has been the Iron Man there. Basically not missed any time until one game recently, even if that. I know he had to come out at one point, but yeah, he's appeared in basically every game this season. And then, Ryan Bliss is a pure second baseman, right? He just doesn't really have appearances even in the minors at the other levels. So that, I think, is one of the things that, like, Bliss getting called up, it only really happens when the team needs a second baseman for sure. Like, I think they did move Cole Young to shortstop at different points. But even like when they had Bliss up at the beginning of the season, he got like one at bat. You remember that? He made the opening day roster.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Run out of center field, then got like one at bat.
Yeah, it was tough.
Here's the first argument kind of against having him on the roster from the Mariners' perspective, because the thing with Rodden is that he also plays short and third. And really the big thing though, do you have any thoughts on that before we kind of move on?
No, not too much. Other than I think it's really trivial to say, does he play or can he play? Because can he play? I'm sure. Does he, as in, are they allowing him to play? We have no, I don't know what that is. Seeing that he hasn't, that speaks volumes. You would think that you would be moving around a little bit because most guys are 1 to 2 space kind of guys. To see that he's looking so one-dimensional on paper is also weird to me, because in Tacoma I definitely saw him play shortstop, but it is what it is.
Right. And so kind of treating this situation as like, obviously we really just don't, we're just kind of trying to ask the questions. It's like the question that comes to mind next, right, is, okay, well, if he only plays second base, and then that kind of clears up why they're keeping him down right now,
right,
healthy, which basically is what NW Sports on the EC, just don't see them want to open a spot for Bliss, right? Bliss, it's like you want to fit him in, because I kind of, was texting you the other day about this. He should be a player that kind of comes in and helps you win now, which is again why, it makes sense to me. It's like, this should be the time, for Bliss.
For sure.
But and just because of how good Young has played at the major league level, we obviously talked about that plenty now. But the main thing of all of this that I have the question about is the fact that he had 2 pretty brutal injuries last year. Is that he tore his tricep or his bicep.
Bicep, yeah.
In one of the first 10 or 15 games of the season last year. And then while he was rehabbing to come back, hopefully in mid-September is what the timetable was from that. While he was rehabbing from that, he was running and he tore his ACL. He got a significant lower body injury. And so he had this series of really unfortunate events that kind of blocked what should have been his chance, with Polanco kind of being in the mix, right? And then Cole Young being in the mix, but sent down and, or not, playing the whole year. Yeah, it could have been a spot for Bliss to kind of take that job. But again, he barely got any time. He only got a couple games at the beginning of the season, and that was it. And then there was another injury. And now this year, he comes back late spring training when they're a week or 2 into spring training, plays his first game. He's good to go during spring training. I think he might have had a couple minor snags, things like getting hit by a pitch, to keep him out for a day, even there. And he's also rehabbing at this point, which the main thing is that in the NFL, wide receivers, right? Players who their most of their game functions on agility, or speed or technical skill in terms of that type of movement, right? Explosive movement style. Can be, when they have a significant lower body injury, especially an ACL tear, which is what Bliss had, pretty sure. That takes the first year after the injury that they're playing, they're usually not as good because the tissue is not, there's a chance of re-injury if they go too hard, and and they're still getting their bearings of being able to trust everything again, and they're it's building up the tissue. Then the second year, usually with modern medicine, players make a full recovery. That's the number one thing that comes to mind for me is, okay, the Mariners are seeing Bliss. They're doing tests on all of his measurables, speed, explosiveness, agility, quickness, in-house, and they're seeing exactly how much athleticism he's kind of gaining back over the course of the months. And my hypothesis with him setting the stolen base record recently, this is what I want, kind of going to be my next question for you, Don, is that, with him setting the stolen base record recently, is it possible that he's like gaining back athleticism? He's still young, maybe even getting to a higher height of athleticism right now, and that the organization is just prioritizing that. And that's the reason that we haven't seen Bliss in the win now situation.
Right. I think if I'm leaning toward the energy of holding the best perception of what they may be thinking, then yes. I think if that's what I'm going for, I think yes. I think they're taking the measurables and taking their time with somebody who they don't want to bring back too soon, but yet they want to hit these lever marks that read, okay, you're back in action, you're in your flow state, and you're sustaining, your body's sustaining, you're holding. That's what I want to think for sure. But then on the other end, I'm seeing him hit the stolen base record. I'm seeing him hit well. I'm seeing him perform well. And with that being said, the clock doesn't stop and time keeps moving. So if you are excelling and you are gaining that new height and that new athleticism, but when we look at the team and Cole Young's still there and you're only a second baseman, we still have no spot. So that's still, and then I think he becomes a chip of bargaining, and then I think we see him go play for somebody else, and that's what I don't want to happen.
I think you hit just kind of hit exactly everything that I was, hoping to land on at the end here.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of exactly where I'm hoping to land, right? Is that you have Ryan Bliss, right? You want to get something out of him. Obviously, the Mariners want to get the most out of him they can. They're not, we've seen with Brock Rodden, that proves that they know they can get something out of the guys like this, right? At some point when things permit. And Ryan Bliss has just had a really tough path. But what I would say is that, in his own way, right? Brock Rodden, be wrestling the bull, right? That's one, super 1-0 player. Ryan Bliss could be that same 1-0 player, like, you've been talking about. And we talk about the stories of Rodden and Julio, we transition into, you had the story about Ryan Bliss recently. I know you put it on the Instagram. Did you post it anywhere else on the Instagram? Is that the best place to find it?
Yeah. Best place to find it is on my Instagram. You can find it on both my pages. I haven't started a StreamYard or anything excessive like that. It was my first write-up, so haven't gone too far with the write-up. But yeah, take a look. Let me know what you guys think. It just basically is a culmination of the things that I've seen since watching him play from Tacoma, and getting his call up and playing on the big show. And just seeing the type of player he is and how he is going through that turbulent injury, a couple of injuries, I should say, but yet still performing, still setting these numbers that I see. And I think everyone can, you can look it up, if you need to. I think the kid is still performing and still bouncing back strong. It's just a matter of whether or not we'll get to utilize him, in our time of need as far as the Seattle Mariners go. It'd be great to see him help us, help ourselves to a ship. Help ourselves some more wins. But yeah, check that story out. It's a little write up on Ryan Bliss, just showing him some love and his journey on the diamond.
So I think I've been using the saying recently that some people don't like, but I like it. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a wild one. It's an old one, but I got you.
Love all the cats out there. All the cats out there.
For sure.
But yeah, there's multiple ways to do something, right? And Brock Rodden is an extremely 1-0 player in his own way, and it can help the Mariners, and so can Ryan Bliss. And so, we got a couple different stories here to check out. There's the Brock Rodden story, there's the Julio story, and then there's the Ryan Bliss story. All 1-0 in their own ways. But shout out to Don, getting kind of going on the written work.
Hey.
I saw you put down on Substack. Have you got the Substack going yet?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Here's the time to announce. We're going to do a 1-0 podcast Substack. We're going to put both of our stuff. We're both going to do, a little bit of, written work on there. We'll get back at you guys. We think we're going to do Substack.
Dope.
What about like medium stuff too? But yeah, we've been talking about doing some written work for a while, so that expect something there. We got some things that'll be easier to do in written work that'll accent this stuff. We're not going anywhere over here, obviously. Yeah, torn bicep is one that is really hard to recover just because you use that muscle so much in throwing and hitting. What I would really just like to do is, and I want to hand it over to you for this. I'd like to make an ask, like a serious ask to Ryan Bliss, like, hey, we'd love to have you on the podcast just to talk to you about your experiences of rehabbing from all of these injuries. Going 1-0 through all these. I know he doesn't want to be defined by them and stuff, but he has such an important story to tell. So Don, I want to hand it over to you. The guy that you actually know personally. What would you kind of like to say in that regard?
Yeah, man, it would just be an honor to have Ryan Bliss on the show. Love to have the kid on just to speak about being in that weird medium of traveling on that freeway from Tacoma to Seattle to Tacoma to Seattle, and he's just been bearing that load. The kid's a baller. He's definitely a star in his own right. Love to see the kid shine. So to have him on and just to pick his brain on that adversity that he's got, that resilience he's got, it would speak volumes to, I think, the people that we have in here that love to watch stories that are coming together slowly. So yeah, it'd be nice to have him on.
Absolutely, he would be like honestly the perfect. I think we've said since the beginning, perfect like player to have on. So
no doubt.
Obviously, any player we would love to have on, but he's always felt like the one that once we are able to have a player on at the right time and place, he would be like an ideal one. So
for sure.
Love Ryan Bliss. The situation, we don't know exactly everything, right? But there's a lot of optimistic ways to look at it, and I think it is worth looking at it those ways. I think you ask Ryan, I'm sure he would. He seems like a guy to me, who would like have somewhat, of an optimistic outlook on it, because you can't really make it through those things, when you're a pessimist,
right?
In most cases. One episode I would love to hear from, and if he's a man of faith, his journey from not just physical but spiritual. Absolutely, would love to hear from Ryan Bliss on that end. And I think I've seen some stuff from him, that he's a believer. I'm not. Exactly. I don't want to speak out of turn. Do you know? Is he a believer?
I'm not sure, but we can ask him. We'll ask him when we have him on. Y'all stay tuned.
Definitely somebody who kind of resembles belief. So it would make sense. But yeah, a lot of questions for Ryan Bliss. Would love to have him on. We'll have to, we'll be reaching out to him for sure. Kind of more. Now that we have guests on and stuff, and something that we know we're capable of doing professionally, and we'll kind of start reaching out to more players and stuff like that. So he'll be the first one we do so, and when we do, then we'll tell you guys to let him know as well. Something like that. We'll make sure that he feels the love. You're kind of our expert at that.
Yeah, we'll cover it. We'll have it covered though for sure.
Yeah, but a lot of baseball left. Again, there's over a third of a chance the Mariners still make the playoffs. So, we're going to talk in each game recap, all this stuff about, what the future holds and whether we make the playoffs or not. But for now, I think it's more important that we go 1-0 every pitch, stay stoic, and give all glory to God.
Yes, sir.
Things we can't lose. Don, anything else before we get out of here?
Nah, man, you summed it up. We got to keep showing up. Stay loud, stay there for your team. Whoever, no matter who your team is, stay rooting for them and stay authentic. Stay authentic to who you are, man. That's what people love, and that's what people gravitate to. Absolutely. Go stream Mariner Magic, and see you guys soon. Yes, sir. Go M's.